Welcome back to another hot day in Kansas here in the Wizard Shop. Today we're going to give an update on the Jag XK8, and also we're going to do an update on the CL55 AMG towards the end, right after this. So we finally got all the pieces and parts for this XK8 in, and they're actually installed on the vehicle, and it's been quite an ordeal to get these parts. I ordered them from a vendor that was actually out in California. There'll be the guides, the tensioners, the chains, everything. It was supposed to be a nice kit. And it took, for some reason, it took a week to get it in the mail. Then it took quite a few days to get from California to Kansas, about 2 or 3 hours from where I'm at. I was following the tracking. But instead of coming to me from there, it went back to California and back to Kansas again, and then I finally got them. This took 2 weeks for this whole, I don't understand what happened. Maybe it's the situation we're in, it's affecting shipping, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I finally had to break down and just order the parts through another vendor, which cost me a little bit more money. I didn't want to do it because I want to try to save the customer some money, but when my parts are floating around in indefinite loop, it's finally time to get business done and get this taken care of. Luckily, this customer is very understanding, very patient. I'm very thankful for that. But these are some of the things you run into when running a shop. It's easy to think, oh, I'll get on Rock Auto and click, click, and it's not always that simple. So as I mentioned, all the new parts are installed. Everything's timed up. It's ready to go back together. But I wanted to show you guys what it looks like, what's all involved before we put everything, all the covers and things back on. Let's take a look. So as you can see on here, we got all new guides, all new chains, all new tensioners, all new tensioner brackets. Everything is all new. We also have the upgraded metal thermostat housing. The customer requested some upgrades on this. It cost a little more, but he said he's ready to pay it. He wants it done. This is no longer the cheap plastic. This is nice upgraded metal. One thing we noticed when we were going back together is that this cam actuator, or cam gear, on the driver's side was bad. It was actually kind of loose and floppy. The other one's nice and tight and locked. This one was really loose. That is not one of the failure points on this engine, is the cam adjuster. This one was failing. It's just from age or whatever, I'm not sure why, but it was still working, it was doing the job. But I'm not going to go back together with that. So we took that off and we've actually installed a new cam gear. This is one of the situations you run into in a shop and you give an estimate. You say, oh, it's going to be X amount of dollars, we'll do all the chains, everything, and everything will be golden. But it's not always golden. We didn't expect that that was going to be failing, so the price goes up. And it's easy for a customer to say, well, that's not what you quoted me. If there's going to be a drastic change, we always contact the customer first. But obviously, we're not going to put this back together and say, no, that's a little bit more than I wanted to spend, let's just put it back together. That's not going to be an option in this situation. You just have to bite the bullet and get it done.
What would have happened if that would have failed?
It would start clacking and it wouldn't be working, wouldn't actuate the cam properly, and we'd have to do this all over again. All this that you see here would have to come back apart, and I'm not interested in doing that, and I'm sure the customer isn't either. So this is the time to address it, and we did. This right here is definitely not for the faint of heart. A timing belt can be very complex, but timing chains with cam actuators can be very complex. If you don't get things lined up properly, it can really wreck your engine. It's a huge liability. If you don't know what you're doing, this is definitely something that you want to be experienced in. Michael actually did the work on this one. He did a very good job. Everything's lined up perfect. All the marks line up. I'm very, very happy with that. Let's take a look at some of the old parts that came off of this. What exactly did we change out, and why is it so expensive? So here we have all the parts that we've changed out. The cam gear has already been thrown in the scrap pile. It was so bad, there's just the spring actually came apart when we took it off. It was a bad deal. But here we have the small chains that go in between the intake and exhaust cam. There's 2 of those. Here are the tensioners just for these little chains. Here's the two main chains. One goes to the left side of the engine, one goes to the right side of the engine, just like you saw on the orientation of the assembled engine. Here's some guide rails, here's the tensioner rails, and the tensioners themselves for the main chains. There's two of those as well. If you look at this cart starting from the top shelf, and as we look down, there's parts and parts and parts, all had to come off the engine. Just like I've mentioned in the timing belt video that we did recently, I'm not going to pay Michael to take all this stuff apart for 400 bucks. It's going to be way, way higher. This job, with the upgrades that the customer wanted included in this, and also the cam gear that went bad, it's going to be in the $3,000 to $4,000 range. This is not something I'm going to do for 1,200 bucks. And if you find somebody to do it for 1,200 bucks, I wouldn't trust them. I wouldn't trust them to work on such a nice car. And as you can see on this little tabletop here, all of these parts are not cheap either. You add it up 50 and 100 and then all the different parts that add up really, really fast. What fails on these? Why are we doing this job? None of these parts are bad. Not yet they aren't. The Jaguar 4-liter engines are known for these rails and the tensioners, especially these little tensioners, for the plastic to disintegrate. These little tensioners here. You see the brown plastic. It's actually kind of a white color when they're new, but it's stained from oil. The plastic goes bad. The chain slides over this, as you can see. And it goes bad. Now there's a gap. And it starts skipping teeth, and it can wreck your engine. This is called preemptive repair. Has it failed yet? No. Well, his cam gear was starting to fail, but as far as these issues here, they actually haven't failed yet. But the customer doesn't want to wait until possible engine damage to do the job. He's very wise, and he said, just do it now, because I don't want my engine wrecked. He just got this car, he'd like to enjoy it, and he wants to enjoy it with confidence and peace of mind that his timing chains aren't going to skip teeth and wreck his motor. If you look at your service manual or your owner's manual, it's going to show there's a certain X amount of miles that these things should be inspected or replaced. But it's been known that when these vehicles can get 80, 100,000 miles on them, bad things start happening on these timing components. We're getting pretty close to having this all done and back together. This stuff looks like a lot of parts, but it goes back together fairly quickly once you get everything lined up. The hard part is the chains and getting everything lined up.
Actually, Car Wizard, the hard part with this project was actually getting the parts.
Yes, it was a nightmare. Luckily, we have a customer who's understanding. We called him and told him what was going on, and he said, no problem, I just want the job done right, I'm willing to wait. But I can't believe that it took 2.5, 3 weeks to get some tensioners and chains. The company that I ordered those from, I'll never do business with them again. It's uncalled for. And maybe it's not the company's fault because the shipping fiasco, but why did it take a whole week before a shipping time even started? It's like, nah, bro, I'm not gonna mess with that anymore. I use WorldPack for most everything on European cars. The prices were much higher, but I didn't have a choice. Ordered it through WorldPack, everything was here the next day. I probably should have done that. Hindsight, just ordered them and quoted a higher price, but I was trying to save the guy a little money. Sometimes you find the parts cheaper and say, well, you can get them over here cheaper. But as you see, we tried the cheaper route and it backfired. When we got this all apart and looked in the engine, it's actually very clean in there. It's been maintained, it's had oil changes. I can tell it's been taken care of. And that's a good sign for this engine. It's going to have good health and good longevity. But the next step on here is to start putting the timing cover on and accessories and valve covers and all hoses. And we're doing all new hoses too. The customer requested all new hoses, so I got a kit for that. When we're all done, he'll be able to drive this confidently with peace of mind that the common failure points have been addressed. So let's go take a look at the CL55. It's actually done now. As you've seen in a previous video, we got all the struts on, those came in. This one was kind of a shipping fiasco as well. It wasn't so bad. But we finally just got the module in that fools the system into thinking everything's okay with the ABC system. And it works. No warning lights anywhere. This is a really awesome car and it's beautiful. And now the ABC system is deleted. No more ABC headaches. Let's go take this thing for a ride and check it out. Well, let's get this thing started up. As you can see, no ABC warnings on the dash at all. It's completely happy. The ABC buttons that are right here, they don't do anything anymore. They don't light up anymore. They say that you're supposed to paint over the buttons, and that does stay lit up with the module installed. There's really not much they could do about it. What I did is I took this bezel off and I got behind there and just put a small bit of epoxy on the LEDs so that you can't see the light anymore. So it looks fully functional even though it's not. It's not lit up anymore. No more warnings, no more light. Let's go take this thing for a spin. Man, this thing sounds amazing. Supercharged AMG V8. Suspension's nice and smooth. No clunks. Very nice. I'm surprised. I expected it to be really rough. I did a coil spring conversion like I mentioned on a Range Rover full size before, and I was very disappointed. It was like a Ford Ranger. I would never do that again. But this one turned out really nice. I'm surprised. It almost floats like the original ABC system. Very nice. Some of you guys mentioned in the comments, without sway bars, this thing's going to dive so hard, it's going to be bottoming out on the shocks and all kinds of bad negative things. I've already road tested this and that's not accurate. It's not true. And we're going to take it on a turn up here at a nice rate of speed and we'll show you. It does just fine. Keep in mind this has the E500 power steering pump in it in place of the tandem pump, and it's working beautifully. No leaks and very wonderful steering. So we're going about 60 miles an hour and we're coming up on a turn. It says to go 40. We're just going to keep it at 60. So we're going 60 through this turn. It's supposed to be 40. I don't see any huge diving or anything bad. It did dive a very, very minuscule amount. To me, it's not worth the thousands of dollars it's going to take to get sway bar, control arms, and labor. It's easily going to be $1,000. I wouldn't spend it. Having a shop doing it, that is, not for yourself in your backyard. We're going to take this turn kind of sharp and hard here. I had no issues with diving or anything without sway bars there. It did very, very well. I'm very surprised. I see no reason to add them. Okay, we're going to give it another shot with the diving minus the sway bars. Check that out. We're going to go through this turn here. It says to go 50, and we'll go about 60, 65, and we'll see how it does. Honestly, I don't feel any difference than riding in an E500 with Airmatic or something. Beautiful. It took the curve beautifully. It wasn't swaying or... Very nice. May look kind of bumpy in the camera. Mrs. Wizard's holding it with her hands, but it's not bumpy. It's very smooth in here. So all in all, I was really impressed. It rode really well. It didn't sway through the corners. It did a very good job. I think the guy's going to really enjoy his ride now. He can cruise this thing, no more ABC errors, no more hydraulic leaks, no more ABC crap. This is a really awesome car and it's very fast and it sounds amazing. I'm glad we could take care of this for this guy and get him back on the road. He's going to be very happy. Thanks for following along. We got a lot of updates going on in the shop. It's been a very busy week. If you're curious what kind of tools I use, check the Amazon affiliates link below in the description. All the tools that I use are listed there. And also keep in mind, we are not going to be putting out a video on the 4th of July. We expect you guys to be hanging out and enjoying the holiday, and that's what we're going to be doing as well. So there's not going to be a video on July 4th. And if you live outside the United States, totally skip that. There's just not going to be a video on July 4th. And if you haven't already hit the subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. We got many more cool videos to come. Thanks for watching.